Oh, baby. Oh, baby. I am who I am. My name is my name. And here we are in the conference finals, man. Welcome to another episode of Shooting the Shit with Sands. Here is my Western Conference preview for the Mavs and the T-Wolves. Let's roll. All right. So the main focus of this, stars versus stars, okay? I would ask you in big games to make it a simple project here. Who do you trust more? And this isn't my thesis on the series. Do you trust Anthony Edwards and Cat, or do you trust Luka and Kai? I think they win that matchup. But within the nuances of those individual matchups, they aren't individual matchups. I could see Ant guarding Kyrie or Luka at some point in the series, if not off rip. Now, Jaden McDaniels is, to me, the better matchup for a Luka Doncic, being a bigger, longer body for the matchup with Luka. The best matchup I've ever seen on Luka is, let's just say it, Ben Simmons. Say his name. Say his name. It was Ben Simmons. He was the only person I've ever seen clamp Luka. I've seen Luka fuck up Paul George and Kawhi. I don't need any other proof of what he can do. There is no doubt with either Ant, Kai, or Luka. I have no doubt in any of them showing up, balling out, doing what they need to do to win the series. Now, if that doesn't happen, then of course that team is most likely going to lose. But if it does happen and they all show up, what other factors could play into this? I think Cat's foul trouble will be a big deal, but that's why you bring in a Nas Reed, and that's why they had that death lineup. But if they can't bring the death lineup out when Cat is in foul trouble late in that third quarter to go on a run, early in the fourth quarter to go on a run with Nas Reed, what do they have to rely on? Because, yes, Rudy can win all the DPOY shit he has. He can have all that. Rudy cannot help in this series as much as y'all think he can. How many lobs, if you have watched even 10 Mavericks games or just these playoffs, you've watched every other game, how many lobs have you seen? A lot. More than any other team. I haven't even looked at the numbers, and I know they've thrown more lobs than any other team and executed them with alley-oops. That is a massive playing point in this series, considering all the drop coverage they're going to use. Considering if you switch Rudy onto Luka because you feel comfortable with Jaden McDaniels switching off and guarding a Gafford because he doesn't have that offensive prowess that we like to see. But in the system with the Mavs, he fits perfectly. He's not a catching ISO guy in the block. There's not a lot of those guys left in the league in general. I've seen Luka dog his ass before. Dog him, embarrass him, kill him. I've seen that before plenty of times. I've seen him post up DeAndre Ayton, and you can have your thoughts on DeAndre Ayton. I saw him posting him up. I don't give a fuck who it is. Luka is comfortable posting up 7-2 guys. He does not care. And when that happens, it creates a scramble on defense. It creates thinking. I think a lot of the times in the NBA, when you make the opposing players think without the plays and the switch, I'm talking about in the moment, where do I, that moment of hesitation, that moment of hesitation for Luka is enough to score, to make the right pass, to make the right play, to find an open guy. It's that intricacy is enough to shift the series. Then we go down a deeper path. The death lineup with the T-Wolves is going to be a problem. I think Lively is the more versatile defender out of Gafford and Lively. I think he's the more versatile defender. I don't think that's even comparable in my opinion. Maxi Kleber is a big deal here. In this series in particular, do I think it's series shifting? No, but I think people underestimate those 4 to 5 minutes of Maxi being out there in moments where Gafford and Lively aren't. That shifts the series. Those 4 to 6 minute increments in those late third quarters can shift a game, which can shift the series. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I also think these acquisitions that the Mavs have brought in, yes, I was wrong on the Grant shit. You know what it was to me? Was I don't think it was style of play for Grant. I think it was the locker room stuff. There was many reports coming out after he got traded. He was talking shit to Luka a little too much, a little too aggressively in practice. Luka kept busting his fucking ass. That affected something. We saw it with Porzingis, man. If Luka don't fuck with you, the organization is not going to fuck with you. They did not like each other. That was evident during, dude, if you watch 10 games of these teams, you can get the gist of personalities and what they're trying to do. If you watch 10 of these motherfucking games late in the season, I ain't talking about November. Late in the season, watch a whole game. Watch that fourth quarter rotation. You can get the gist of what these teams are trying to execute. Now, I think the Mavs, they didn't need to find an identity. I hate when people bring that up. Like when they brought it up with the Pacers, I get it. They did. They had a lot of moving pieces. Mavs do too, but there's a difference. When you got guys like Kyrie and Luka, that's your fucking identity. It is. And Mavs fans, delete the Jason Kidd tweets now before I go back and find them. Delete them quickly. Delete them quickly. I try to tell y'all, I never thought Jason Kidd was a bad coach. I never did. There's no reason to. Giannis was on his knees. Please don't let him go. No need to think he's a bad coach. He hasn't proven anything that he's a bad coach. The same excuses that y'all give players, y'all don't give the coach. Luka ain't healthy. He's on one leg. Well, if that's the reason he ain't playing well, then how about you don't blame the coach for him not playing well because of his injury? You see the trickle down? How you going to blame the coach for somebody being hurt and playing? If that's your excuse, I don't want any hurt excuses unless they are missing games or are fundamentally flawed. You can tell when somebody's hurt. Luka was hurt. My stance still stands. Luka Doncic is the best player on earth. I have not flinched, not nudged a bit on that take for the last 2 years. I have not moved. That fat slob fuck in the mountains ain't moving shit. I also said on my podcast 3 years ago, and if I have the clip, I pray to God I have it saved. I'm playing it right here. I said Anthony Edwards has the highest ceiling of any player in basketball, including Luka. And that is a statement for me because of what I think Luka can be. Am I rapping? Hey, yo. Let me spit a, you want me to spit a 16? It has not moved. And I think Anthony Edwards and him are about to duel. And they can duel, but do you know what Luka has? The best number 2 in basketball outside of Kevin Durant. Yes, I say Kevin Durant's a number 2. He can be whatever you rank him. He is the best addition to a structured roster that you can have in the league. That's what he is. I do not feel the way y'all feel about Kevin Durant. I'm not going to go on a Kevin Durant rant right now. We don't have to do this. Kyrie Irving is the second best number 2 in basketball, point blank period. He's better than Jaylen Brown. Yes, he's better than anybody. I said it. It's facts. Okay? That's when this shit gets tricky. Who the fuck is Mike Conley guarding? PJ Washington? Who is he guarding? Derrick Jones Jr.? Who is he guarding? I want to know. Because as much as Mike can bring offensively and keeping that shit structured, once again, if they see a flaw in that, if the Mavs find a way to exploit him and get him in weird switches where it's like a Derrick Jones Jr. PJ switch, and you don't want to run that all game. But if they can get them in that, they're going to use it. And if he has to come off the floor every time Mike Conley sat on that bench, against the Nuggets, you immediately felt that they were out of sorts offensively. Because as great as Ant is, he cannot run an offense. His passing ability, great. His scoring ability, great. Everything is great. I just told you he has the highest ceiling in basketball over Luka. And that was before Wemby got drafted. By the way, don't. That was before Wemby got drafted. What's going to happen when he hits the bench? Because all I've seen from the fucking Mavericks when the bench lineup comes in is they don't miss, okay? And that's another thing. I would like to criticize the Mavs and be like, are your role players going to hit all their jumpers like this? When have they been successful in the past? That. When has LeBron been? Every time other teams do it, it's like that's in their DNA, but it's something we always question, which is weird. PJ Washington is a legit NBA scorer. Legit NBA, like really good NBA player. I'm not saying he's a star. Derrick Jones is a good NBA player, and when he's hitting threes, he brings everything you want to see from a role player in the NBA. I don't expect these guys to start randomly missing now. I don't. And if they do, you charge it to the game. Just like Luka did against the Warriors in game 1. Was that 3 years ago? You charge it to the game, man. I'm finding the open guy. They ain't hitting their shots. Dope. Let's keep going. Then they get that 20-point lead at half, I believe, the next game or game 3, something like that. And then they lost. Like, all he is needed in these moments specifically. I have a fucking podcast named One Ball specifically talking about Luka and Kyrie and how if they make the playoffs, it will work. Because when Luka goes to the bench, you aren't gripping onto your chest. You aren't going, oh, fuck, survive, please survive. It's not a Philly situation. Every time Joel hit the bench, you know that if it's an 18-point lead, it's getting cut to 6. Maybe even tied. You felt like that with Luka for a couple years before Kyrie came into town, correct? Like you really didn't have a second option to kind of let you take a... Bro, Kyrie has the ball when Luka's on the bench? Man, fuck out of here. You get excited almost like... You get excited to just see Kyrie get to do his thing when Luka's off. And you love Luka if you're a Mavericks fan, obviously. But you kind of, I know y'all get excited to be like, damn, okay, Luka's out. Kyrie, let's go. He about to get hot. Like, that's that shit. And I just, in this series, and I'll get into the T-Wolves too. In this series, I feel as though the Mavs have so much more explosivity and explosive options, even the explosive self-combustion or explosion of THJ. Like that little factor, because Jason Kidd has him on a fucking 3-inch leash. Yeah, 3 shots there. Okay, all right, okay. Let's run the set to the other side. And he kind of yanks him out when he ain't doing nothing. Even those little options. And on the T-Wolf side of things, I know I hammered the Mavs. I think their defensive prowess is scary. I also believe they were in a lot of close games with the Nuggets because Jamal Murray did not handle the pressure, the ball pressure, the size, the trapping, as well as somebody like Kyrie Irving can. A guy like Luka can. OKC was doubling Luka from 30 feet out. He was making no-look skip passes to the opposite corner. There are 3 guys alive that can make that pass. Jokic, Bron, Luka, end of the list. End of it. Halliburton, end of the list. Only a couple guys can make that. And I think game planning for Luka is the hardest game plan in the league right now. Because of where he gets the ball off the inbound to when he gets to half court, How do you move the defense? How do you shift? How do you disguise looks like a quarterback, like an elite quarterback, to guarding him one-on-one inside 30 feet? To how do you help when he's getting off the screen? What is your pick and roll coverage? Are you trapping? Are you hedging? Are you showing and going? Are you bringing the weak side underneath the roll and leaving the corner open? You have to evaluate all that. When he starts driving, are you helping hard? Are you not? Are you letting him get his free throws off? Are you letting him shoot uncontested little floaters? Are you letting him kick? He has too many elements to this, and I think it's going to be rough to game plan for them. I also believe this is the hardest matchup to get rim penetration for the Mavs. Do I think it is absolutely essential? No. I don't, because Kyrie and Luka, this is weird, and it's me being maybe overthinking it. They have a different way of bringing rim pressure because they are under the rim players. Luka and Kyrie don't have to get to the basket to create their rim pressure. They have to get a foot in the paint, and then you have to react to it. It's different than a Jimmy Butler per se, right? That's my guy. A Jimmy Butler who has to get to the cup and then make a play because that's where he gets his money from. Kyrie is a midi guy, even though he is the best under the rim finisher I've ever seen. Luka is a free throw guy, but he is also one of the best finishers in the league. Jimmy is as well. But I just mean the mentality of driving and kicking isn't the same. The drive doesn't have to get all the way to the cup to bring the guy forward, to bring the help forward. Because they'll pull it right there. Kyrie Irving will pull it right there. He didn't have to get all the way to the cup. A lot of the guys in the league aren't midi guys. It's black or white. They're driving and kicking or driving and shooting. I think that's what makes this scary for the T-Wolves. But I also think it makes the inside presence and the offensive rebounding ability of Lively and Gafford, because we always go to what was the previous series. Guys, Chet Holmgren's getting tossed around down there, bro. Jalen Williams, not the guard, the one from Arkansas, Woo Pig. He's getting tossed around down there with Gafford. Gafford is a massive human, also a hog. Shout out all the hogs, Woo Pig. Okay? Those guys are tossing them around. Gobert and Cat will not be tossed around. They won't. You can draw fouls on Cat, and I think that will be a hard point that they're going to hit early. I think they may look for switches with Luka on Cat. I think that will be a big deal to start the series off. See if we can get him the fuck out the game. See if we can get Naz Reid extended minutes, because we know when Cat goes to the bench for an extended amount of time, when he has 3 fouls in the first half, he comes back and he's a different player. He tries to force his way into the game, tries to win the game single-handedly, does those dumbass drives where he's fucking has the ball at his hip and tries to shoot a hook shot, all that dumb shit. That's where that comes from. Most of the time, he wants his impact to be felt, and I can't hate on that too much, but sometimes he does dumb shit. And I give Cat credit for finally taking a step back and finally realizing that this is Ant's team. Mostly when you're the one pick, that has to be hard. But that's Ant, man. It's his squad. So I think on the other side with the Wolves, on the offensive side, I think they have a lot of good matchups out there. I just don't think they have a lot of guys to score. I think outscoring the Mavericks is going to be hard for this team. The Mavericks have been fucking clamping. And bringing it back to that Mike Conley point, what happens when Alexander Nickeil Walker has to get extended minutes if Conley can't really play like that? I'd like to see it. I would like to see that because defensively it's going to help. And T-Wolves, the reason I love the T-Wolves, they do the Heat shit too. Chris Finch has kind of just bought into, okay, we're going to clamp. We may not be able to score 95 points if Ant doesn't go for 40, but we're going to hold you to 88. And I respect that. I think it's going to be very hard to hold a guy who accounts for, I don't know, close to 60 points a game in Luka by himself with assists and points. A guy like Kyrie, I think they respect their defenders too much to be trapping, to be double teaming, all that. And you may go, but the Mavs, that's how they got all their open shots. Cool. If you let Kyrie and Luka play iso ball, you will be fried. Playing that duo 4 games and letting them go one-on-one, even if you hard help, hard show, I don't know if it's enough. The T-Wolves do have Ant. His ability to blow past anybody on the court is going to be an issue for the Mavs. They will be in a lot of 2 versus 1 situations. The benefit of playing Rudy Gobert is that you don't give a fuck about those situations. And mostly when he is on the court, Cat kind of just floats away from the basket. That's kind of what happens. They've gone further away from that, but his initial instinct is to float away from the basket. Because what is Rudy going to do down there? If you have a late show on Rudy and he doesn't get a dunk, I mean, you have a stop. Unless he hits an insane turnaround fadeaway like he did on the Nuggets, right? So my final prediction for this series, and I really did hammer the Mavs. It kind of is obvious, right? Mavs in 6, final. And then I guess Boston in 5. Ooh. So, yeah. Boston in 5 unless they choke away like they always do. But that is the Western Conference preview. I do not care about previous matchups. I do not care about the defensive efficiency and the offensive efficiency. We are in late May. Throw that shit out the fucking window. These are completely different teams. Even the T-Wolves are a completely different team than what we are seeing in the regular season. All right? So throw that shit out the window. That's the Western Conference preview. Fuck the Celtics. I'm out. Dudes!